All right, this is the joint meeting of the DPW Subcommittee and Town Council meeting, Wednesday, December 15th, 2021, 6 p.m., the Veterans Room. Call to order. The Chair, Marquetti, is here. Councilor Dow is not here. Councilor Steves. Steve Lazo, citizen member, is not here. Kevin Splain.
Present.
So we do have a quorum, thank you. Also in attendance is the DPW Director Heather Blakely. I do have a sign-up sheet going around, if anybody would like to put their name on, please. Agenda item number 3. Consider and approve joint DPW Town Council meeting minutes of November 9th, 2021. Has everybody had a chance to look over the minutes? Kevin?
Just that one thing under number 4,
Right.
second line. That was Heather.
Heather,
Myself.
okay, I'll make that change. Thank you. Gus, do you have any change?
I didn't see them actually.
You didn't see the minutes? I did send them out. I did send them to everybody,
Came through as an email.
right.
That's how I got mine.
I did notice it wasn't in the packet, but I had sent it out earlier, and then in that transition between Yvonne leaving, it got lost somehow.
It probably was in the earlier packet when we canceled the meeting.
That's true, probably, yeah. Okay. All those in favor of the minutes? With one amendment, thank you. Agenda item number 4, Citizens Forum. Any citizens have anything they'd like to discuss tonight? Please speak up now. You have anything? No? All right,
Mike, can I say something on the citizens forum since it's not on the agenda?
sure, go ahead.
We spoke 2 meetings ago in reference to Coombe Street, Roger Street, gas lines with Newco. And Heather said she wasn't pleased with the asphalting job and she was gonna meet with the contractor. Nothing's been done. That sinkhole is still there, it's getting bigger.
I will follow up with them again because I have addressed it with them, but
Okay, and the other thing, is it possible for us to get some time definite as far as all this Newco works that's going on, as far as getting these patches permanently done?
they
Coombe
won't be till
Street, Main
spring.
Street, Roger Street, Waring Street, Elm Street, Everett Street, Worcester Street, Moon Street, our roads are horrible, horrible. And as far as I'm concerned, Worcester Street should have been done by now, it's been a year.
Well, Worcester Street's on hold because we're going to mill and overlay the whole street with them. That was already part of the agreement. Snow Street that was also already discussed.
I mean, I keep saying it every meeting, we gotta stay on top of this. Our roads are just getting beat up and beat up and beat up.
I think part of the issue is gonna come about if the asphalt plants are closing, I think, the 21st.
Right, they won't be doing any more.
No, not this year, but the thing is it just, time keeps going by and going by and going by, and then all of a sudden this 3-year bond on it's done, and then the town's gotta eat the price, and we just gotta stop the bleeding. I mean, it's
Kevin,
ridiculous.
can I just respond? We are in negotiations and had a preliminary agreement with them that we will give them an estimate of what their cost would have been to pave the whole thing, to mill and overlay, and just like they did on Main Street, they will reimburse us part of that cost, that portion of the cost of what we will do it, and then we will be able to use that money to pave the whole road and mill and overlay the whole road, which we have discussed in the past, that's a much better treatment than just doing half a road. Especially on Snow, Worcester, Moon. That's the discussion we're already having. I don't believe on Warren and Rogers that those roads are in good enough conditions to just mill and overlay. I will be very honest with you, those are in pretty rough conditions. So I will look at what their costs are, and maybe we have to look at doing full depth reclamation and having some of that money go to them, or settling on a mill and overlay in those areas next spring after they have time to settle. But that's gonna have to be a determination that can be made. But I think Worcester Street, Moon, and Snow Street, all are very good candidates for mill and overlay next spring.
So how is it determined if a road gets milled and overlaid, or are we doing core tests, are we doing core? I just hate to see what happened on Dudley River Road, what happened on Page Hill, what happened on Clements Hill happen again. I mean, there's gotta be some sort of core testing or something we can test. So we stop the bleeding. I mean, we're so far over budget on Page and Clements Hill and on Dudley River Road from what the original price was. I mean, my taxes keep going up because we're spending foolish money on stuff like that.
So would you rather that's beside the point, that's another discussion item on the agenda tonight, so.
I have nothing further.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Well, just with discussion with the gas company, I have a family
Mr. Chenier?
member that works for a company that does gas work. And he's amazed at the amount of, the way these roads are left here in Southbridge compared to where he works in Connecticut. Would never, ever be allowed.
Thank you.
And, you know, the compactions, all those, when he closes up his job, they gotta honor the job for, I believe it's 3 years, just like here too. But they never leave the road in the shapes that they're done here in town. And he's amazed when he comes here and sees the work that's being done for the gas and the type of road, the way the conditions of the road are left. He would never, ever be allowed to do that in Connecticut. But we allow it here in Massachusetts in Southbridge. And, you know, the settlement, well, there's ways of eliminating the settlement when they put in the flow.
They won't put flow fill in any gas trench here, so if they're doing that
Right.
in Connecticut, I'd really
No,
like
they
to
don't
know
do that in Connecticut, but there is other options, but they never leave the road in the shape that it is. I've been on his job sites, and at the end of the day, their roads are in better condition than ours have been for a year of being opened and settling, if you wanna call it that way. It's terrible at the way the gas company is leaving the roads in this town, whatever they dig. Not just those streets that you named. Go anywhere in Southbridge where they've changed the gas lines, and you'll see the roads are deteriorating and terrible shape. And nobody follows through after the 3 years or before the 3 years to see. I've been gone 10 years. I've been gone 10 years in those roads. I was amazed coming back here to see the roads that have been done by the gas company and the shapes that they're in. And it's terrible, no matter where you go. And you know, and then it's just like even South Street, I know it's a different project, but to do that for the winter time is a accident waiting to happen seriously, the way that
South
those
Street
roads
is,
are. You can't go down that road today without you hit a bump and you're on the other side of the road. It's terrible.
it was like that before they did the work.
Oh, it was, but it's worse. It's much worse.
I travel that road every morning, and every night, I don't know that it's much worse.
Well,
And I've been doing it for 10 years, so I don't think it's any worse. It's probably just as bad as it's always been,
I
but
believe it's much worse, but no matter where the road has been dug up with gas, they're in terrible shape. And I don't know if it's just a lack of the ability of the town to be able to follow through and not have the resources to do that, or either that they're just forgotten about, and after the, whatever time period is allowed here for them to make the repairs and those kind of things, they're in terrible shape, terrible. And I know it's part of the whole problem was there was never a road management program in town until just recently, and hopefully that'll address it all. But I truly believe that they need to stay on top of especially the gas company, because they're in terrible shape, terrible. Wherever you ride, no matter what road you go on in town, except for the ones that have been recently repaired. But it's terrible wherever you go, and you'll go find out, well, it was gas company that did it. It was gas company. But that's just my opinion.
There's a part of Worcester Street that was done by the gas company and repaved, and I think it's one of the best roads in town. So-
What part of Worcester Street?
Not-
The state road?
No, before you get to the state road.
Well, that's a small section. I mean, we can have excuses for what is good. Why don't we fix what's bad instead of having
I'm not
excuses?
having excuses, I'm just saying you're making generalized statements, but we have been trying to make efforts. I feel like you're attacking me.
No, I'm not attacking. I don't
Okay.
even know you.
But you are very accusatory towards my department that we are not following through and trying to make improvements, which is not true. We've tried to change methods to try to make things better and try to improve them. But it's going to take time and we're going to need to follow through with the gas company. But I do still think it's a better method to do an overall paving, allow that to settle, which means you're not going to get a final paving trench, because if you get that, then we are not going to get any more money from the gas company.
And I understand what you're saying. I guess this disparity part of it is that it's such a long period before that negotiation's done and that actual pavement is done, those kind of things. I guess, I've been gone 10 years and some of those roads are still the same way that they were 10 years ago. So, and again, I understand, your department is probably short-handed. I can remember when I was on the fire department here, when there was 30 guys that used to work there, and I realize it's not that way. And again, I'm not hammering your department or yourself. I don't know you, but I have, all I can say is what I've seen this year coming back after 10 years. You've heard the same stories from the same people. It's discouraging to see our town in the conditions that it is with its roads. And again, if they give you the money, you're able to do it. Thank you.
You all set? Thank you. All right, moving on to agenda item number 5. Review and discuss the acceptance of the FY22 MIIA grant award of $8,228.20 for safety-related equipment. Entertain a motion to recommend that council accept the FY22 MIA grant award.
Second.
Thank you. Gus made the motion, second by Kevin Splain. Heather, would you like to
Sure, basically, as you can see, Maya's our insurance company. They put together available grants for us as a town. Safety is one of their big things. And we just went through a whole safety program with them, with OSHA training, and have identified some of the things that we were lacking or could use more of. So put in an application, and lo and behold, we did win for $8,228. The town doesn't have to put even any money out. Basically, the way this works is they have a list of vendors that they have agreements already with, and we buy from that vendor, and the bill goes directly to Maya. So it's kind of even very nice, but felt we should at least let you guys know that we got it. Something we're getting back from our insurance, which is always a nice thing.
Okay. Discussion. Kevin?
Heather, is this what we're gonna get? for
Yes.
$8,200?
Yep, well, these are the items we're going to get at that estimated cost based on their vendors. So we buy that and send it directly to them, up to $8,200.
Thank you.
All right.
Real quickly,
Joe?
thank you through you, Mr. Chairman. I think this is a great idea. A couple of quick questions. Are all the techs confined space entry trained, certified?
So part of the training that we just went through, we have some people that are confined space entry trained. Not all of them are, but we have to upgrade our confined space entry program.
Good. And the AED, that'll be kept at the DPW?
That would be at the DPW. Right now, we do have one in the office, but they say because of the size of our building is too far away, so we were able to put in for a second one.
Good idea. Okay, thank you.
Hopefully, we'll never need to use them.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
You all set?
yes, thank you.
Anybody else?
Sure. Just tell me what the MIIA stands for.
The Massachusetts Local Insurance Agency, I believe,
Yeah.
going off the top of my head, but
That's a very good question.
Massachusetts Interlocal Insurance Agency.
Okay.
Probably should put that in when the agenda comes forward, that should probably be included. I agree, yeah. All right, all those in favor? Thank you. Unanimous. Agenda item number 6, I will just give a, a summary of it. It's a first amendment to the agreement with the wastewater treatment plant to provide snow plowing. Heather has something to say about that?
Sure. At this time, we're going to withdraw that item. We could not come to an agreement with Veolia over a liability issue in the contract, so we will be removing it. We will not be further doing.
This isn't. It is now.
It
Oh, that's
won't
all
come
right.
back up, you said?
I don't believe it. They won't do it without the liability.
I'm recording anyway, so. Okay, so Heather is withdrawn, agenda item number 6.
We should also add, that was on, I've been talking with the DPW director, and I just know from past contract experience, we wouldn't accept that, and we just, because apparently we know this has come up in another town, so I checked with council, our other KP Law, and they advised, they concurred with our assessment not to put that in there.
All right, thank you.
Sturbridge just approved a
No.
very similar thing. I don't know what the.
They didn't
details
approve
are,
it. They didn't approve it.
but I thought the selectmen did.
No.
They did bump their drivers, their, what do you call it?
From talking to their DPW director earlier in the week, they didn't approve it for the same exact reason as a liability.
Oh, okay.
They were discussing with Sturbridge, it was the same exact contract that we were looking at, but unless they have gone against advice of their council.
Because I saw the selectmen's meeting, I thought they were there. But
Unless it was last night, I don't know.
it was last night.
All right,
So the First Amendment is withdrawn?
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 7, discuss the recent road reconstruction projects, Main Street, Marcy Street, Page Hill, and Dudley River Road. Would you like to start with this, or would you just like us to start with it?
I don't know what the specific questions are. I did provide you with some information via an email. I don't know if you sent it out to the rest of the
I did,
subcommittee.
yeah.
But I know one thing was asked, what was the bid? So I have the invitation to bid here. I also have a summary of all the bids that were received. That was what was sent out in the email. I do have copies of Mass Broken Stones invoices, so this is I don't have Main Street's. I read it late today and I went, okay. But I think Main Street is less about seeing what the invoices are and probably more about just voicing concerns. So I'll be happy to listen to concerns. If people want to see Mass Broken Stone invoices, they are here. I also have a summary of a breakdown of by street of what was totally cost, and I can share this electronically with you at a later time. But so the information is here, but I'd be happy to say that. A point was made earlier tonight, I will just say that Dudley River Road was extremely over budget. Based on what the engineer's estimate was originally before we bid it, we had $222,000, $190,615 is actually spent. As far as Twinehurst, Page Hill, and Clements Hill, the engineer's estimate was $233,000 for this same square, for 11,000 square yards. What was actually spent was $346,319.09. This, we are talking apples and oranges here, because at this one, we did actually do full depth reclamation in addition to putting 4 inches of asphalt down. versus what was estimated to be a mill and overlay project and 2 inches of asphalt. So although, yes, it was much higher than what we originally budgeted for, the type of project totally changed.
Okay. So let's go around the table here and
Can we take them,
one at
One
a
at a
time.
time?
We'll take them one at a time. Why don't we start with Main Street?
or what do we start with the small one first, Boston Street?
Marcy Street? That's fine with me. We'll start with Marcy Street. Kevin?
So I noticed that they started replacing panels on the sidewalk that I've been bringing up for weeks now, which is good. My question is, I don't know if anybody's been up there to look at that. There's, from what it looks like, there's like 4 more panels to put concrete in. It's like 5 or 6 more that they broke. I feel that they should have to replace those. With the amount of heavy equipment they had on that sidewalk through this whole project, I feel they should have to change all those panels that are broken.
So I was up there in between them, replacing the panels near the far panels in between their driveways, and spoke to him about the other panels in between. This was closer to Thanksgiving, and he told me that he was going to remove more panels, but he didn't want to remove them until he knew he was ready to pour them.
Okay, so if that's what he said, there's still panels that, he's got panels ready to replace, but there's panels that
I will
still-
revisit the job.
You can see they're snapped, and their hairline fresh snaps, that from, I mean, the amount of heavy equipment. The other thing, can you look at, and it kinda sucks, but where they dug their water line trench, I'm assuming, it's already been paved through Lynch and everything, but that curbing right there, where they busted the curb and went underneath, it's like 2 inches too low now, but it's on fresh asphalt.
I will look at it when I'm out there.
You'll see it when you're there, but I mean, I feel that, you know, these guys had a lot of heavy equipment on
No,
that
they were
sidewalk.
totally running their equipment over
And
that sidewalk.
if you actually look at those panels, you can see that they're
Fresh cracks.
9 out of 10 of them are fresh cracks, and the way he's got one of them framed in a pour, he took a chunk out of it and just gonna add it, and I'm like, I don't know, I don't agree with that, me personally. I think, in my opinion, they should have to change that whole section, because I think all the damage is done from them with all that heavy equipment, between the lulls and the backhoes and everything driving over that. I think they should be liable and not the town on that. And it was nice to see they finally fixed the road there. Thank you.
Okay, we're on Marcy Street. Anybody else have anything on Marcy Street? No? Anybody? Okay. Do we know if they're going to fix any of the sidewalks there on Marcy Street?
They already have
They-
fixed a
they-
section.
They fixed
And
a lot.
they had committed to fixing, where he's speaking of, which was right in front of the school, had committed to me of fixing more of them. I haven't been up there this week to see which ones they've prepped or
I
not,
mean, they poured
honestly.
concrete yesterday, and they have like 3 or 4 more panels that are ready to go, but there's 5 or 6 that, from how, when I pour my concrete, I mean, I would've ripped the whole sidewalk out to do it, that it looks like their intention is just to leave those panels there and that's it. In my opinion, they should change them since they're broken with their construction end of it.
Okay. All right, then there's Main Street. Kevin, would you like to talk about Main Street?
Yes.
Okay.
So, is there a punch list that still needs to be done on Main Street?
There is we had a meeting about Main Street regarding the pavement and some bad spots in the pavement that we are monitoring and will be monitoring there. I don't have any other items that I'm fully aware of. I think there might be a couple boxes that we're concerned about too.
If I may.
Go ahead.
In my opinion, I think that's the worst paving job, the worst job I've ever seen. Those cold seams,
And they're on the list.
the cold seams are horrible, the asphalt's already breaking down.
Again,
Never mind
on
on
the
the corner of
list.
Central and Main that everybody's seen, but you look at that asphalt in general, the whole length, there is stones coming up everywhere. My opinion, Main Street looks horrible. There is asphalt stones all over the sidewalks. the curbing is horrendous. That curbing is horrendous. I've never seen a curbing job put in like that. Curbing's 22 inches wide, you have 2 inches showing. Central Street and Main Street, it's Hamilton Street and Main Street. I'm like, wow, are you kidding me? You look at the curbings they put in, they didn't even run a level or a string line over them, they're all over the place. That curbing is horrible. Between street carts, catch basins that are low, that speed bump up by the junior high school,
That's not a speed bump, that's a level course so that,
I'm
so that they
calling it a
can
speed
go,
bump.
so that that crosswalk meets ADA requirements.
I'm calling it a speed bump, but I mean, it's just, that has to be the worst paving job I've ever seen. I mean, they're hauling asphalt in from Millbury. By the time it gets here, the paver broke down one day and the truck sat for another hour, and it's like, I don't agree with that job, and I hope the town does not accept that work that they did. I mean, in my opinion, that's poor craftsmanship. I mean, that's horrible, the cold seams like that. And you go to other towns around here and you don't see their main streets that just got paved like that. I mean, Webster's Main Street is gorgeous. They don't have cold seams like that. I mean, I'm not the only one complaining about it. There's a lot of people in town complaining about it. I mean, that's horrible.
I
Horrible.
complained about the cold seams myself.
Yeah, which is good. So I guess my question is do we have a ground to stand on as far as, I mean, I don't think we should pay for it, in my opinion. It's horrible. That's shoddy work as far as
All
I'm
we can
concerned.
do is monitor it and see what it has for over the winter and see what the conditions happen long-term. I mean, over the winter to see what it is.
Which is fine, but I just wanna say, 3 weeks after the pavement was down, we already seen what happened on the corner of Main and Central Street. I mean, the asphalt's an inch
And
and a half.
They're coming back.
And they are taking responsibility for that and agreed to the monitoring period through the winter, that if we see additional areas, and that we are going to reevaluate it once spring comes. They said they would come out and take it out in the winter, and I said, absolutely not. That's the last thing I want is a cold pavement putting back down on the main street. At this point, it's too cold. So we will readdress it, and you can address that spot and any other spots that we have or are concerned about once winter is over.
That's the thing, though, it's not spots. You just walk Main Street and look at that.
And if
top
that is the
layer
case,
of
we're-
asphalt that
if-
is just deteriorating
if Kevin-
3 weeks after it went down.
If that is the case, and we do have other areas that we've already pointed out to them, then we will address the whole thing in the spring, because it will all be bad, and you're right, then we will get a whole new set of pavement. If it's not the case, after winter, we will have to do area by area.
Okay, so I would just like, I invite all you people to walk up and down Main Street sidewalks and just look at granite curbings, look at the asphalt, look. The other thing is can we get at CAP, the entrance to CAP, the auto parts store on the hill, where they put in a curbing, put in a sidewalk. It's 4 inches wide, it's about 6 feet long, it's about 4 inches deep. They cut the driveway there, and it hasn't been repaired yet. I just hate to see someone walking to church. That's all I have to say on Main Street.
All right, thank you. Mr. Shenier, do you have something?
Yeah, this is the reason why I came to tonight's meeting. I'm just gonna give you a little bit of history about myself. I was 10 years on the airport commission. I overseen the runway reclamation and repaving, a taxiway project there, maintenance shack, and airport hangars. As the chairman of the airport commission, I oversee it. We had DeFray Henry, which is Stan Tech today, being our engineers. And all during the process, we had engineers on site doing all the work. And the paving project, the grounding, the reclamation of the runway, the taxiway. I worked for Charlton Welding for a few years, and I did paving with them. I watched the paving project on Main Street for a few days, and during those paving projects, I saw nobody from the town there to oversee what was being put down. In front of the Southbridge Savings Bank, the truck broke down, the paver broke down for well over, almost 2 hours at least. And those trucks sat in the front of the library for paving. So in my history of doing paving and working for the paving companies, that was a cold roll pave that they used, because those trucks sat there for a long time, coming from, I believe, Millbury. I'm not sure where they came from for the asphalt, They came from Millbury, took the trip down here, sat out there, the truck was broke down, the hopper was full of asphalt, and they poured. Now, I've done jobs on 495, 290, the trucks were turned around and dumped because of the asphalt temperature. That didn't happen on that. So in front of the Southbridge Savings Bank and the library, that was a cold roll asphalt done job. So it may not show up in springtime, but it's not going to last the amount of time that it was done. Also the seams, when the seams are terrible, if you look at some of the seams now, they're coming apart or they're widening. And I understand they're going to do something with that. But when those seams, when we work projects with the seams, they used to put like an adhesive or a liquid, a binder. And I didn't see any of that happening. But what amazed me was the 3 days that I spent at the Southbridge Savings Bank and watching the project, because I had nothing better to do. I was a street engineer. I didn't see anybody from the town there, the hours that I spent there. And that was a disappointing part, because I think if there was somebody there, a clerk of the works or something, would have never allowed that asphalt to come out of those triaxles and put down because of the temperature. And it was cold. It was cold out those days. And so that asphalt, I don't recall the temperature when it came out of the plant. I believe it's some kind of ridiculous high. But they sat in the truck. Sure, they may have the propane high in the roller running to keep the hopper warm. But those trucks run off an exhaust to keep the body heat. And it doesn't give the temperature that it should be. And that was done 2 days in a row. They had paving problems with the pavers. They had it in front of the Southbridge Savings Bank, and then they had it in front of the library. And as those pours, as far as, like I say, from my knowledge of being involved in the construction a little bit that I've done, and I'm not no expert, is the fact that that was a cold roll asphalt job when the asphalt goes bad. And it's not going to show up in the springtime. It may show up in 2 years. And maybe it won't show up. Maybe it'll be okay. But I think if there was, and again, I'm not blaming you or your department. I know you're very limited, but you're the person in charge, your department's in charge, and you take the heat from us. And it was very disappointing. You know what, I almost called the manager's office when those machines broke down and sat there like they
You
did
should have called me.
and say, how come it's being poured, you know? But I felt the town should, you know, that was a what, $3 million job, $4 million job there, and nobody on scene for the final product, you know? And if you look at the job, I'm more concerned the seams are terrible, and I hate to see what 2 years is gonna be down the road. We're gonna be putting crack seal there again, like we got the rest of the town. And that shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen. We've had those issues at the airport, then you end up with cracks because of the lack of maintenance, as big as you could drive a car through. And I believe they're in the process of fixing the taxiway today and going out for bid with that. But I know when I was on the airport commission, when it came to that paving, I was concerned about that, because when aircraft land and hit cracks, they're in trouble. And that's why we paid the extra money and had, you know, an engineer on site. It was Steve, poor guy, he drowned in Lake Winnipesaukee. But there was Stantec back in the day, and then DeFray Henry ran Stantec today. So, I mean, those are things that, I know we can't open the road up, it's 5 years or so, unless it's an emergency, but they're not gonna guarantee that road for 5 years. And I'm concerned what's gonna happen in a year from now, if as far as I was concerned, it needs a regrind and a redone, the whole street, because those seams are terrible, and we're gonna be in the same situation in a few years from now. And just so everybody know, I'm here for good now. I'm not leaving again, so you're gonna hear from me more often.
Welcome back, Joe.
That's good.
Welcome back.
Are you all set?
Yes, thank you very much.
All right. Counselor Catrona?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, I think we've heard a lot of the concerns. Kevin and I did take some time. We did walk Main Street. Thanks, Kevin, for your time. And we walked from Marcy Street almost to the Rotary. And I think he pointed out a lot of the same concerns. Some things that I happened to notice from the post office going up towards Marcy Street. The concrete used to be stamped like in little squares, and it's no longer stamped now, it's just regular concrete. So I don't know if that was part of it, of the design, or why they didn't replace what they took out. And some of the other questions.
It was not part of the design to replace this.
It was not, so just regular concrete. Okay. We noticed the curbing was just, it was not level. Something that I pointed out that was of concern to me, down by the post office, I don't know if you call it a handicap ramp going down towards the bank. I'm trying to think of the name of the bank, the Southbridge Credit Union. There's a yellow ramp, and then there's a road, there's a lip there. Where you come off by the, it's yellow.
By the post office?
Yeah, with the round circles in it.
There's a lip on the pad. The transition to the pad or onto the asphalt?
Yes, from the pad to the asphalt. There's a lip there. And then we noticed, things that we pointed out a lot of, there was the beads of asphalt, there was big chunks of concrete along the side of the road that were still there yesterday, when I took a walk. And there was asphalt in some of where the trees were. There's a telephone pole up by the corner of Marcy and Main. Looked like someone had backed into it with a machine. Half the pole's missing. And that to me was a big concern. I think, we've mentioned it before. I know Councilor Marchetti and I have mentioned it before, and I'm sure the town manager's going to probably, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but we'll probably speak to it during budget season. But we've talked about a clerk of the work, so we've talked about adding personnel to that department, and to have better oversight. So I think it hopefully will be addressed during budget season.
Well, I also think one thing that, I don't want to interrupt you, but I do think what you guys decided to do on East Main Street and having a full-time oversight and having full-time engineering is, engineering oversight as opposed to part-time engineering oversight is the way I will recommend projects going forward, because I think even if we have more oversight, which I would welcome from a standpoint of we're already spread too thin, we can't do the inspection on the gas jobs like we would like, we can't do, you know what I mean, like, we're already spread too thin, we have too many projects going on, we're trying to do too much in too short of a time frame and keep adding additional responsibilities onto the department like stormwater and things of that nature. So in order to get any type of service, we're going to need to have an extra technical person down there who is able to go out and do a lot more oversight, along with having the engineers on site full time, because if we have as many projects as we had going on this summer, one person can't watch all of them continuously and be there. So I would rather have somebody responsibility that it is their responsibility to be mainly out in the field, and if they actually have additional time, they can start doing some of our stormwater responsibilities, like now, and then also have the engineer on site so that when our person or I go there, we can say, what's going on? What's the problems? What do you see? What are the concerns type of things? And have the ability to have the eyes on site to call us and say, listen, this isn't working. You need to get here right away. There's a problem.
Thank you, if I can continue, thank you. Heather, I don't have my notes with me. I came here from a job site. When coming from Marcy Street down the hill by CBS, I don't recall off the top of my head now, didn't the council approve special asphalt or something special for that road?
So that asphalt,
there?
you guys approved the special asphalt for the whole project.
Okay.
When we did the change order for removing Main Street, we went to the asphalt with the polymer in it, which is what you see on the whole project, which is also why it looks more open than traditional. It is not a smooth top, it is more like a base because it's more of a heftier asphalt. So the whole job got the polymer asphalt, which they explained to us, which is more difficult to work with, which does look more open graded when it is. So it does show it when you hand off work it seems to be more open.
That was one of the things, I went along and I accompanied them on the walkthrough that day when we went down to Everett Street and back. And they said when they roll it, it's the same grid that they use with MassDOT on the highway, so that we wouldn't see as many ruts as we had before. But they said when they get close up to the edge of the curbing, especially because I saw it too and I asked about it, like where the ramps come down with the.
That might be what you're
where
seeing.
where the beacons are for the pedestrian
Yes,
crosswalk.
yes.
It gets much more granular because they said when they hand tamp it, so they're gonna look at that in the spring too.
That's what I was trying to say
Yes.
earlier. Thank you. Okay. Okay, good. And just finally, you hear a lot from the residents in town. I think it's already been mentioned, the corner of Central and Main. Is there a warranty or other, we might watch it, but if we say, can you come back next year, do they have to come back?
Well, I think that they said that there's parts where it just lifted up, there was some, like.
That Central and Main where it's deteriorating,
Yeah,
yes,
they-
yeah,
they-
they've already
Okay.
committed to repaving a very large swath of Central, right at the Central Main intersection. They've already committed to removing it and repaving it. They would have done it right now and I told them no, cause I don't wanna have another problem. I'd rather have it in the spring when it's actually better temperatures and they,
Are they gonna infrared
Thank
it?
you, I'm all set.
no,
Thank
they're
you.
gonna actually mill it out and replace it.
All right, hold on. Gus, did you want to say something?
Nothing specific.
No? Okay, Kevin?
I was just wondering if, when you finally look at what we addressed tonight, if I can get an update as far as that curbing goes and, I mean, I'm not impressed with that curbing. 2 inches.
I have to look at it, I haven't noticed it myself,
Two
so.
inches of curbing showing and those slabs are 22 inches tall. I mean, the purpose
Like I
of
said,
curbing is
I
supposed
haven't-
to direct water, and when we get the rains in front of the church on Main Street, the yellow church, it just goes right over that curbing. I mean, it's all the intersections, Hamilton and Main, Central, I mean, that,
Well, I know they're all sloped to the handicap ramps, but
oh, not 25 feet or 20 feet. I mean, it's the curbing, and it's not just at the intersections. You look where they changed sidewalk panels, and I mean, two granite curbings go together like this, and the curbing is horrible. I'm like, no one ran a string line, I mean, I was kind of baffled at that. I mean, somebody screwed up with measurement somewhere. I mean, to have a 22-inch piece of granite, you only have 2 inches showing.
I agree with
I
you.
can understand where you gotta meet for ADA and stuff like that, but, I mean, it goes a distance, and I'm in awe. The fire hydrant on the corner of Central Street and Main Street, by the bank,
Yeah.
that granite curbing's probably 3 inches down, and I'm like, the craftsmanship that came out of Lynch, in my opinion, was horrible. Thank you.
Understood? All right, thank you. Maybe if you go down there, you should invite Kevin to go with you.
Maybe I will.
And
I will.
Yeah, I'll walk it
let them
again.
point out, I have to,
I
I
don't
have
mind.
to
I mean,
admit,
another set of eyes is always, I mean, that's why I invited everybody, come and look and actually physically see by walking it.
because I have to admit, when I drove down there, I thought it was a beautiful job, but I didn't go and walk it and look at things, I just drove it. I go,
Different
well,
when
this
you
is
walk.
nice, this is
We
really
walked
nice.
it up one side.
But one thing I would like to see added back are the arrows, the left turn arrows, that has to be put back, absolutely has to be
okay,
put back.
I would please ask you all to tell me the exact time when you have the most problems there. Cause I sat there from 10 after 5 tonight to quarter of. And there was one cycle of light that people didn't get through. And then the next, when that person that was waiting to go left onto Elm Street didn't get through, what they did was put their blinker on and went straight down Main Street. So they were just confused about where they were going because they hesitated and didn't turn when they had a chance. And they literally blocked, and that was the only time that there was any stacking. And the rest of Main Street flowed so well, nobody didn't get through the lights going both direction, so traffic was free flowing the whole time. Now, granted, I know 5 o'clock is probably a little later than what it needs to be, but if it really is only from 3 to 4 or 4 to 5, and you're talking 2 hours out of the day versus having free flowing traffic another 20 hours a day, I would really caution you that our traffic is flowing so much better now that you don't have that dedicated turn signal.
Instead of the turn signal, couldn't they change the timing on just to allow the left-hand turn and leave the red on coming down Main Street and put a, just for.
So then Central Street doesn't go, because it's the same thing on Central Street.
Okay,
I find that the issue with the left turn turn is more like 7 to 8 o'clock in the morning,
Okay,
when people are going to work, and mid-morning, maybe 11 o'clock.
11.
I mean, I did get stuck 2 cycles, but I blame the people in front of me as far as being on the cell phone or something. But the only thing I thought of, because I've heard so much complaints, I watched all the meetings from Florida too. It was great when you guys were on Zoom. And I understood what you're saying, that people are used to the old way, if you want to call it. But I think if they just had just a slight delay on the light coming down Main Street, you wouldn't even have to put a new signal in, just the green light going up Main Street, just a little bit of a delay, I think, would really help.
yeah, I literally watched 14 cycles of lights.
Yeah, I mean.
And I saw one time, and like I said, that I kind of was like, oh, fine, like it was kind of in the middle, and I was like, oh, okay, I finally found one. And I understand I wasn't there at the peak, but I can also say, as a person that's traveled through
Yeah.
Southbridge for years, there was
That
plenty
flow
of
is much
times at
better.
5 o'clock at night that you would get stuck at that light
That flow
and
is
cycle
much better.
going straight through that light. There was none of that tonight. There was zero. Literally, the light cleared the whole way. I was like, wow, where is everybody? I was actually, and you have much more traffic that goes straight both directions than you do that turn onto anyone. It was 3 or 4 cars. I saw 5 cars get through the light without a problem left onto Elm Street. I saw 2 buses turn, one up Elm Street, one down Central Street without a problem.
Right.
So I understand there are times, and I appreciate it, because I will. And if you would like, before we go and change, because changing could be extremely expensive from an engineering standpoint. We can't just put another head back up there. The strack that goes across is only engineered for so much, and the poles that hold it are only engineered for so much. Before we do that, I would say let's do another traffic study on the existing conditions now that we have it,
that's not a bad idea.
with a professional. And I can go get quotes for that, so that and we don't even have to have VHB do it. I would say it might be better because they have the original data that they could compare it to. But it's not that I am married to that, but so that you can see, and then what it would do to that intersection all the time if we change that turning lane. Instead of just making, we don't like it statements, I don't want to make something worse. I don't want to go back and make it back to what it was and have it not any better than what it was before.
Okay, fair enough.
There's many a times now, you can go from the post office or the set credit union all the way to Main Street, not hit a light.
Right.
It's green. I mean, the traffic, at least from what I see, is much, much better. The only concern is a little bit of the left-hand turn.
Yep.
And I'm aggressive, so I don't let people.
And I get that. Lots of people, some people aren't, and there is definitely a population here that aren't as aggressive, and I can appreciate that. I just don't, I travel at multiple different times. I do come in at a little bit earlier than 7. I'm turning left at 7 o'clock. I never have a problem. I used to get to that light and be stacked 5 deep. I'll be honest. And it's the same timing. I don't have a problem now. I can always get through it. So I'm not seeing those problems. I have a lot less traffic problems coming up Main Street anytime I come to the town hall now, at any time of the day, than I ever used to. And that's what I don't want to return to, is backed up traffic all the time, because we want an extra left turn signal, which is going to delay. It just puts that much more time in so that we don't have free flowing traffic.
All right, thank you.
Really
Go ahead.
quickly, I think, I brought it up at a council meeting, George, and I brought it up directly to the town manager, and I recall when I did that, and, we become complacent because it's been there for so many years, and you find a workaround. I was very aggressively against removing it, and you find to use side streets more, and you find other ways, and I find traffic flowing much better now than it has in many years on Main Street, so I don't have a problem with it, as I once did when I made that statement, I think about 2 months ago, so.
I'll happily get prices for an engineering evaluation of that intersection, just so that we know where it is at and we know what it would do. And then council can decide whether they want to study it more. I know VHB has said that if they have to put another head up on that light, on that strand, they'll really have to either take off the right turn signal for lane so they can move the light over, or, you know, so I don't wanna, cause there's a dedicated right signal. You can only hang so many heads.
You just swap the one off of Elm Street, because there's no reason to have one on Elm Street. A left turn arrow, what do you need that for?
Well, exactly, or a left turn arrow going down Central, coming up the
You don't
street.
need it, yeah.
It's possible.
Thank you. All right, everybody else set? Okay. Page Hill, did you wanna talk about Page Hill, anyone?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Kevin.
Page Hill and Dudley River Road, it's kinda, I basically wanted to see what's in that packet, I believe. It was probably a month ago I asked for it, for the last meeting, it was canceled, so I'd like to review that and possibly come back to discuss this,
Okay.
because I
I
wanna
have
see
no
what
problem
that
with
looks
that either,
like.
because
I was,
that was a 118-page document.
yeah,
wasn't
which
gonna-
I appreciate it, it was
I'm
done
not
and
gonna print it
everything. But I'd like to go over that as far as those two go.
All right,
The only thing I wanna say, Dudley River Road, I see the final punch list is done. We had a problem with the water line. My only question is, with us spending, I don't know what you said the number was to do that whole project. I would have either liked to see that patch infrared, or something to protect that seam right there. I mean, I personally would like to see it infrared, since it's a new road, we spent a couple $100,000 on, I believe. I don't know if that's possible,
You can
I mean,
I'm not sure.
just something,
I
just
don't
something,
infrared the joint, they heat the joint up.
it'll disappear, you
Oh.
won't have that joint where the water and stuff will start getting into it and blowing it
And I
apart.
think it's too late to do the infrared.
Yeah,
I think
'cause they
that has to
already
be done when
installed
the pavement goes down.
So maybe we can put some sort of,
We can crack
crack
seal
seal or
it,
something.
yeah.
Just to,
We'll crack seal it,
Try
in
to
this-
save
we'll put it
that.
on the crack seal list for the spring so that it gets
just
crack
try to
sealed.
save that,
Yep,
you know,
patch.
since we just spent a lot of money doing that.
Oh, we spent a lot of money patching it too.
But, but
would've-
that
okay,
project's
go ahead,
totally
sorry.
done, there's no more, the whole road, I mean, all the, punch list, all that's done.
Well, we'll walk it again in the spring and make sure that there's no problems that exist, so we have a year warranty, but yes.
Okay. I'm all set, thank
All
you.
right, thank you. I do wanna say something about, and I think it's a good idea to bring those two back to another meeting, because that was a large document and I wasn't gonna print it out. So maybe I'll get them to print some of that out for us.
Well, the document is just the bid spec. I don't know what you think is gonna be in here.
I don't either, because I've looked at a lot of those,
What,
and to tell
what
you the
I,
truth, it's
what
hard
I
for me to
requested was
understand.
I wanted to see the invoices involved in it and what the actual, when Mass Broken Stone came in and they wanted to bid, what their bid dollar amount was for, and then what the final number was on the project. What we
Okay.
Well, we're
actually
still,
spent
we
in-
literally were still negotiating that, not negotiating, we were still revising quantities this week. So that's why I couldn't get you through that any sooner, because we still were,
Okay,
going back and
understandable, so I guess, and I know it's a lot of paperwork, so when you finally get to that point where the invoices are in,
I have the invoices now.
so what do we let, what, and then I misunderstood what you were just saying.
I got 'em- the last one I just got this week.
Oh, alright,
So what I just gave you, and I can get anybody else, well, actually, it's probably better if I scan them and then you can have them. It's not gonna be that big.
Okay,
The document here is the bid spec, which was also asked for.
right.
The bid spec.
that was my fault, I shouldn't have said bid spec, I should have said the actual bid, the awarded bid, so that was
Correct.
my fault.
Okay.
I think we can
said
come
what the
back and
award
talk
bid.
about it again.
I will
Because
scan
there's
this
a
now
lot
that we
involved.
have this, and you can,
Now, is that broken down, if I can, Mr.
Go ahead.
Chairman?
Yep.
Would that be broken down with the contractors that they were hired to do the job and what the contractors were paid?
yeah, that's
Okay.
right here.
For both that and Dudley River Road?
Yep.
Okay,
This is every single road we did, not just those two roads.
okay, thank you.
So that's part of the thing that I think there's Woody Crest, Mary Ellen, Judith, Highview, Taft, Orchard, Harding Court, High, Janet, Bruce.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, I do have one comment about, I had a resident who called me who lives on Mill Street. A tractor trailer came up Page Hill, down Mill Street and took out his cable wire. And he wanted to know why trucks are even allowed on Page Street and Mill Street. He said that he talked to somebody, I believe he said he talked to somebody from DPW, and they told him we could not restrict trucks from traveling up there. But I would think a tractor-trailer truck
Can't restrict,
does not belong up there.
doesn't,
I
but,
Okay.
was a specialist in another community on getting truck exclusions. There's a whole section of the Massachusetts Uniform Traffic Control Devices. You have to meet certain criteria, including traffic counts to show the percentage of trucks and when they're coming through. And once you get all that, you have to apply to Mass DOT. It's extremely hard. It can be doable, but if it's not a highly trafficked road and there's not a lot of extenuating circumstances, you're not going to get one.
So, but you did tell me that Central Street has a restriction, right?
Central Street has historically had a restriction, yes.
It's always had
Some
that.
are grandfathered in certain communities. DOT didn't know how they came in, like in one of the other communities I worked in. Nobody could tell why, but it was there and DOT let it
Accepted it,
stand.
yep.
But to get something new in a lot of downtowns is very difficult.
Have you been on Mill Street, Mr. Town Manager?
I've been on, if that's on the other side over near River Street, is that, no, I
Yes.
know Page Hill.
Yep,
but-
that's Mill, like where you're
Yeah.
talking, where it comes down.
I've been around most of the time.
Mill Street, to me, is a very dangerous road, especially for a large
I almost got taken out.
semi-tractor trailer to be traveling on, so it may be worth looking into that.
Well,
The other thing we can do without getting Mass DOT too deeply involved, we can establish preferred truck routes in town and put appropriate signage.
Oh,
in.
that would be good
Those are
too.
usually an alternative to that, and that's usually what they come back with.
Okay,
But we- right.
But on Mill Street, it's tractor trailers service the industry that's down there.
He's talking Mill Street going towards Page, towards Cliff.
Right. Okay, again, when I drove triaxle, we used to use that as a shortcut to get to the landfill.
yeah, and I'm probably, the guy who lives, I think he lives on, right at the corner there, so it's probably actually Cliff Street.
No, it's,
He said Mill, but I
It's
think
Mill.
it's Mill, but it turns into
it's a
Cliff.
Cliff, yeah. It's very confusing there.
We tried to stop the trucks from going, taking the shortcut of Mill Street to Page
yeah.
Hill and Clemens Hill. And basically what they were told was if you accept Chapter 90 money
Yeah.
in your town, you cannot exclude vehicles because those vehicles technically are paying the Chapter 90 bill.
Well, they didn't use chapter 90 on that, on page.
Doesn't matter, any road in town.
Even if you get a town
Even,
that says
doesn't
Chapter
matter.
90.
Just
Even
as
even if it's dangerous, I don't think
Even
so.
if you get a truck exclusion though, that you can't exclude certain deliveries and other certain things if somebody's traveling through commerce in certain ways.
All right, I didn't mean to have a free-for-all here, I'm just saying that the guy said the trick, and I've been on that road, and that is a dangerous
You're
road
right, it is.
for a big truck to be traveling on, so.
Historic Commission?
The Historic Commission's upstairs.
Upstairs.
Upstairs?
Okay, I think that's good, I don't mind, oh, go ahead, Gus, yep, sorry.
The bid tabulation that we have here, is that for, that just for Page Hill and?
No, that's for all of the paving we did.
Because I was curious if the engineer's estimate was 1.1.5 million, and we ended up going with Mass Broken Stone as the low bidder, 694, that we did, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. What was your thoughts on how come the engineer's estimate was so much higher than the bid?
Asphalt is very dependent on the price of what the asphalt is at that time. And so, we based our engineer's estimate based on what the pavement management study had in it also. So we're mirroring that as cost. So there's a lot of flex, a lot of ups and downs. One thing that we have to pay, and it's on the documentation, is there's an escalator that we have to include in the contract. So that escalator escalates up based on asphalt price. Mass Broken Stone was extremely aggressive with their pricing for this job. As you can see, some of the other ones weren't that much off the engineer's estimate. So it depends on how aggressive they want to be on different projects. We never want to be the low when we engineer estimate.
Well, and I understand that, I was wondering why it was so far off.
No, that's not really that far off.
Okay.
And what year was that study done too versus in real
Correct.
time now?
Right.
There was-
There's a lag. It's
Huge change,
18 months,
yeah.
20 months old now. It was probably 9-10 months old when we did it, so.
Wait, next year.
Yeah, we'll get half as much.
Sure.
Kevin, did you want this? It's the bid spec.
Is everybody, are you
I
all
actually
set,
started
Gus?
hitting print. I pulled it up on my phone, I said, oh shit, I'll just print it.
All right,
Oh, cancel,
if there's
cancel,
nothing
cancel.
else, accept the motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor? Thank you. Meeting adjourned.